We love the halls of ivy that surround us here today, and we will not forget though we be far, far away.
Welcome again to Ivy. Ivy College, that is, in the town of Ivy, USA. As you enter the gate of Ivy College, you enter a world that is dedicated to the principle, you shall know the truth, and the truth shall make you free. It's early afternoon at number 1 Faculty Row. Neither Dr. William Todd Hunter Hall, president of Ivy, nor his wife Victoria is at home, and their housekeeper Alice is taking advantage of their absence to catch up on some chores.
Something?
Golly, Dr. Hall, I didn't know you were home. I lost a year's growth. Do you want something?
No, thanks, Alice. Is Mrs. Hall here?
Been downtown all day. There's a big sale at the Ivy department store.
Uh-huh.
I thought I closed that. Sorry, I must have been thinking of something else. You know how it is when your mind's working. Gets awful dusty if you leave it open.
Yes, an open mind is all very well in its way, but it ought not to be so open that there is no keeping anything in or out of it. It should be capable of shutting its doors sometimes, or it may be found a little drafty.
It's true.
That was Samuel Butler, Alice.
Besides, it lets all the flies in. Well, it's funny, Mrs. Hall never told me you had a butler named Sam. From the top.
Right. Good heavens, darling, you look like a safari wearer. Your porters, why didn't you rent a camel?
Oh, well, they only had one left, and they told me he was already loaded.
I've got him.
Alice, take them upstairs, would you?
Sure.
What about this one?
Oh, that's the Wellman's Lazy Susan. That goes upstairs, too.
The Wellman's what?
Well, you know, it's one of those whirligigs for nuts and pickles. I thought it'd make a nice anniversary present.
Whirligig for Wellman, nuts and pickles, yes.
Make sort of a good lyric for a song, wouldn't it? Let's save up our dimes and nickels and buy old sourpuss some pickles. Oh, let me catch my breath.
Imagine you remembering the Wellman anniversary. I don't think I even know his birthday.
July 4th.
The 4th of July. The stork celebrated his independence by bringing Mother Wellman a little bundle of firecrackers.
And little Clarence has been popping off ever since.
But, Vicky, how do you remember all these dates and occasions?
Well, I don't know. You remember quotations, and your secretary remembers phone numbers, and with me it's birthdays and anniversaries. And you ought to be very glad I do the shopping for them. I tell you, the going in the store was so rough today that a mere man could never have survived it.
Well, a few days ago I did set forth on a secret mission.
Really? Something for me?
Well, I found a charming little porcelain figure of an Arcadian shepherdess I thought you might like.
Well, how lovely. Where is it? Why didn't I ever get it?
I didn't take it, dear. It turned out to be a receptacle for used razor blades.
Oh.
Now, where did I? Shepherdess, razor blades. Now, typical of the current trend toward gadgetry and gimcrackery. Everything must be made to look like something else, and then hollowed out so that it may be planted with some creeping greenery.
It seems to me that
Statuettes of the Venus de Milo, an electric clock stuffed into a midriff. The graceful spinning wheels of our grandmothers, tortured into magazine racks. Rare first editions scooped out to hold cigarettes.
Well, there's no reason to get alarmed.
French dolls into telephones and lamps. Now, is there any conceivable piece of household junk to which some demented decorator will not attach a plaster base and a frilly shade?
And that's probably the demented decorator coming to fetch you for a shade.
No, dear. Considering the pitch of my violence, or is it the violence of my pitch? It's more likely one of the neighbors coming to your rescue.
Yes.
Oh.
Oh,
Well,
hello.
good afternoon,
Good
Mr.
afternoon,
Wells.
Dr. Hall. Hello, Mrs. Hall. No, don't get up. I'll sit down. Dr. Hall, I came straight to you because, well, you know me.
Yes.
What I mean is I always come right to the point, but this is a horse of a different color. And what are you going to do with them when they reach that age?
Well, don't you usually put them out to pasture?
And that's the only humane thing to do.
Why, Mr. Wellman, I didn't know you were interested in horses.
Horses? What has Royce got to do with horses, Dr. Hall?
Royce.
Lucian Royce. He's come back.
Lucian Royce, here at Ivy, I hadn't heard. Why, this is splendid news.
Oh, Professor Royce, didn't you study under him, William?
Yes, I did. When he was the head of our English department. Retired from Ivy about, 15 years ago. Went to live in the south of France. I haven't heard from him since the war. I just assumed he was... Why, he must be nearly 80 now.
That's what I'm talking about. Pathetic old codger. In his duties, Dr. Hall. Probably hasn't got a penny to his name.
Oh, I'm very sorry to hear this.
Have you spoken to him, Mr. Wellman?
Well, of course, that's why I'm here. He just stared at me. Didn't even know who I was, chairman of the... I had to tell him. Dr. Hall, this is a very delicate... I mean, you'll have to use gloves.
Well, for what?
Well, not everybody will be sympathetic. The students will make him a laughing stock. Oh, we've got to think of his own good. And besides, what will other people think? Fortunately, there are comfortable rest homes for cases such as his.
Yes, and there are uncomfortable suggestions.
Do you know where he's living, Mr. Wellman?
As far as I can tell, on a bench in front of Emerson Hall. I just saw him sitting there now, nodding and smiling and chatting with the students. Well, what are you going to do about him, Dr. Hall?
Well, the least I can do is to welcome him back to Ivy.
Naturally, I didn't mean that you should just send him. I'd be the last one to suggest that... the fact is, Dr. Hall, you're good at this, and you're the president, so I leave it all up to you. 10 minutes late for my meeting. Oh, well, goodbye.
Goodbye, Mr. Wellman.
You know, Toddy, I can't make up my mind whether that's the neatest bit of buck passing that's passed this way all season, or whether Mr. Wellman's suddenly grown a heart.
Well, it could be either or both. He's got to have a heart, if only to fulfill biological requirements. Anyway, I welcome this responsibility he's put on me.
Yes, but what a solution. Ship him off to a home for the aged. Not while we have a spare bedroom.
Yes, exactly my feelings, Vicky. Professor Royce is and will be at any age a great teacher. And I'm far into his debt. I'd like to repay him somehow. If only because he was the first one to set me straight on whether to use shall or will.
Well, let's go and see him, shall we? Will?
Good idea, Vicky. He's probably still sitting where Mr. Wellman left him.
I think he's asleep.
Seems to be much smaller than I remember him.
Maybe the bigness you remember was inside of him.
Perhaps we shouldn't disturb him. We can come back later.
Bill Hall, don't go.
Professor Royce.
I saw you coming. I closed my eyes for a moment to try and remember you the very first time I saw you, when you registered for my English class. Won't you and your beautiful companion sit down?
Yes, shall we? Or is it Will?
I see Bill's been talking to you.
Yes.
I remember when he used to shilly-shally with Shall and Willie.
I don't think you ever met my wife, Victoria.
What? Oh, somebody did tell me, but I've forgotten who. I never did get around to sending my congratulations, so I hope you both will accept them now with the interest they've accumulated over the years.
Well, thank you, Professor. You make me feel like a bride again. Not that I've ever really stopped.
Well, it's good to see you, Professor. We just learned today that you were here at Ivy, and we came right over to welcome you home.
Yes, in the final analysis, I guess home is where your past is. I had to go away to find that out. I'm only grateful that I lived long enough to find my way back.
And we're delighted to have you back. Only I wish you'd let us know you were coming. We must arrange a small get-together with some of your old friends.
Thank you, Bill. I just came back to have one more look at Ivy, to see if in reality it is as green as my memories. You know, sometimes I can't remember what happened last Saturday, but I can remember the hour and the date when I received my first appointment to the faculty here. And that's decades ago. Tricky thing, memory, eh?
Yes, and possibly the most precious of our possessions. A repository for the jewelry of our past, to which each of us has the single key.
There was a sampler hanging on the wall in my Aunt Violet's house I've remembered ever since I was a child. It said, "Memory is the power to gather roses in winter."
It seems I have quite a large garden to take care of.
Yes. I hope there's a plant there labeled genus freshman species, Bill Hall.
There is, my dear. I remember Bill much better as an undergraduate than later on when he joined the faculty.
Professor, come on, tell me. Now, what did William look like in those days?
Fresh, bright-eyed, and spick and span.
No.
He never talked much, though.
He got over that.
And he was pretty shy.
And he got over that.
Bill, do you remember Maggie Spencer?
Yes, I got over that, too. No, Victoria, she was my psychology teacher.
Oh.
Well, she used to think you were kind of a problem. Never opened your mouth in class, but always sent in the best papers. I told her not to worry. When you untied your tongue, you'd be a spellbinder.
Well, sometimes I think I've become more of a loose leaf binder. Filled with transient observations, assorted notes, and obsolete agenda.
Bet you don't remember when Maggie Spencer was first appointed to Ivy? And a woman professor of psychology? It was heresy. Yes, caused one of the biggest battles in the college. Well, I could go on this way for hours, but I mustn't keep you. Say, Bill, what time is it?
It's almost 5:15.
Oh, I must hurry. I'll miss my dinner.
Where are you staying, Professor?
I try to get close to the campus, but this is more practical. I'm stopping at Mrs. Say's boarding house. It's only a 15-minute walk. Bill, I've enjoyed this very much. And what was your first name, my dear?
Victoria.
Victoria. A beautiful name for a beautiful lady. Bill hasn't changed much, Victoria. Still bright-eyed and spick and span and... Goodbye.
Goodbye. Oh, isn't he sweet? He's like a little teddy bear.
As Charles Dickens said, Father Time is not always a hard parent, and though he tarries for none of his children, often lays his hand lightly on those who have used him well.
You know, I think we ought to have a nameplate put on this bench, especially for Professor Royce.
Well, no one ever...
Oh, look, he's forgotten his umbrella. Do you think we can catch up with him?
Oh, no, darling, I don't think it's going to rain, and it provides us with a good excuse to go and see where and how he is living. I think we can return his umbrella without letting him know we're worried about his overhead.
And now to return to the halls of Ivy, where we find Dr. Hall in the office of Mr. Maypole, the college librarian, enlisting Maypole's help in a surprising spur-of-the-moment plan on behalf of old Professor Royce.
And naturally, I immediately thought of you, Mr. Maypole. I wanted to get your opinion on this before I broached the subject to your cousin, Mr. Wellman.
Oh, thank you, Dr. Hall. Thank you. And naturally, you know, I do anything I can.
Thank you. Now, what would you think of a series of books dealing with Ivy's history, approached in the most personal terms and written from a rich and appreciative memory?
Oh, that's a splendid idea, Dr. Hall. Simply splendid. Now, let me get this clear. Now, what you mean is a sort of a diagram that would start at the beginning and trace the entire growth and development of the college, eh?
Exactly. And your help as college librarian would be indispensable in the preparation of such a work.
Oh, well, thank you. I'm not really a writer, but, of course, living among books as long as I have acquired a certain facility, almost through osmosis, you might say.
Osmosis? Yes, that's absorption through tissue, but I think we'd need a heavier type of paper.
Yeah, well, naturally, I was only joking.
Yes, so was I.
Oh, yes. Well, but I myself have often thought that I could write.
Oh, no, I couldn't impose on you, Mr. Maypole. You're much too valuable in your present capacity.
Well, I do try to do
But
well.
I did hope you might find time to give Professor Royce the benefit.
Royce? You mean old Royce is going to tackle an important job like this?
Well, I thought he
Oh,
might.
no, not that I don't have the highest regard for him, of course, but do you think it's fair to shoulder him with such a heavy burden?
Only because I can count on your help, Mr. Maypole. With you to guide him, to keep him on the right track, I'm sure this project will be an overwhelming success. Thank you very much. Thank you.
Thank you, Dr. Hall.
Hello, darling.
Vicky.
Hello, Bill.
John.
How are the elements? Kind to thee?
My dear, they fared me well. Come and sit down.
Thank you. Thank you.
Here, take this.
You didn't have to rush back, you know. It's no particular hardship, just standing around, making highly proper advances to your wife.
John, if you didn't admire my wife, I'd begin to suspect your mental health, and I need your well-established sanity at our Board of Governors meeting this afternoon. I've a project in mind, and I've already won the approval of our librarian.
Oh, so that's where you were this afternoon, huh? The library.
Yes, dear, on behalf of Professor Royce.
Royce. Say, that's right. Somebody did mention seeing the old professor wandering around the campus. He did a lot for this college in his day.
Mr. Wellman has already picked out his reward. A rocking chair and a rest home.
Well, that sounds like Clarence. He has the sentimental touch, like sandpaper. Rubs all the polish off his charity.
Yes, chairman of the Emery Board. But knowing the professor, I feel sure he'd resist any kind of charitable gesture. So I've a plan. And if we can swing it with the board, then, Vicky, you and I can return the professor's umbrella this afternoon.
Well, good. We'll each take one end of it.
Yes, just in case its ribs are ticklish.
Oh. And don't worry about the board, Doc. We can take care of them. And if Clarence so much as... Oh, tell me, Mrs. Hall. Is it painful to have your ears pierced?
I don't know. Why?
Well, you think how often we have to pin Clarence's ears back, you'd think he'd make it easy for himself.
Yes, but John, and we haven't much time. This is what I propose. And after all, Professor Royce has all the qualifications to do an admirable job. And if we...
Right here, darling.
All ready?
Yes, I just want to stamp this letter. How'd it go?
Oh, it went our way. Mr. Merriweather was especially eloquent.
What'd Dr. Hall do?
Dr. Hall applauded loudly.
How about Mr. Wellman? What did he do?
Mr. Wellman said, and I quote, "Tradition is a living thing at Ivy. Living, Dr. Hall. Symbolized in the sacred plant which clings to our hallowed walls. Walls, Dr. Hall."
That's very good.
Dear, as a matter of fact, he got quite emotional. There was a tear in his eye, too.
Well, I hope you put it in a capsule so you can send it to the Smithsonian Institute.
For your gloves, Miss Hall.
Thanks, Alice.
Oh, I better go take the washing in off the line.
Washing?
Well, I'm all set. Shall I take the umbrella?
No, darling, I'll carry it. Reminds me of my romantic past.
Romantic, an umbrella?
Yes, an umbrella built for two should have been the romantic song hit of the 90s. Not a bicycle.
Doddy, Doddy, give me your answer, do.
Well, my answer is that the curls blowing around a lady's neck can be devastating when viewed from the back seat of a tandem, but give me the umbrella snuggle all the time.
Not all the time, I won't. Not unless I'm the girl.
You know, the professor's umbrella reminds me of that lovely walk we had once in the New Forest in England.
Oh, yes, it was before we were engaged.
Well, I considered myself engaged.
And I was on the brink, shivering happily.
Yes, we'd just finished our picnic, remember? And we were wondering whether a storm would break. It was then that
Do you think we ought to go, William?
No. Why?
Well, I think it's going to rain.
Good.
We've only got one umbrella, and Hey, you had one at the station this morning. What happened to it?
I gave it away.
You did?
When I went to get the tickets, I saw an old lady without an umbrella. So I said, "Ma'am, it's going to rain. Take this." And she said, "Thank you, young man, but what about you?" And I said, "Madam, we have one. That is all we need."
Well, that was very kind and thoughtful of you.
It was selfish, scheming, and conniving. And I've been praying for rain ever since. Where are we?
Lost, I think. Lost. lost in the New Forest.
Wonderful. Nothing in sight but the greenwood. Beech and oak, gorse and bracken, Robin Hood and his merry men.
That was Sherwood Forest.
Oh, yes, yes.
But this casts a spell too, doesn't it? And probably hasn't changed a bit since, the days when William the Conqueror made it all a game preserve.
Good old Bill, preserving it just for you and me. From William to William, with fondest regards, and take good care of Victoria.
I expect he had us in mind all the time. There's some very frightening things have happened here, too, you know. William Rufus was killed. He was shot by an arrow.
Ah, these ill-fated Williams, destined to be pierced with arrows. And now here is William Hall, mortally stricken with one of Cupid's sharpest darts.
Mortally?
I shall never recover. Victoria, listen. Not a sound. What these old trees have seen and heard. What secrets they must whisper to each other.
Yes.
And I have one more secret for them.
Well, pretend I'm an oak tree and tell me too.
I love Victoria.
Oh, William. You in the New Forest.
Where love and history hold hands. Haunted with memories.
If we listen carefully, we may hear the horn of a huntsman or the cry of a falcon. Did you hear that?
It sounded like an arrow.
Well, of course. You said yourself the place was haunted.
But I don't see anybody. Where is he? Where did he go?
He went the way of the arrow. We'll never see him.
Oh, Victoria. What wonderful things happened to you and me. Let's put up the umbrella. In a haunted forest, it's the only privacy we can expect to find.
Why did you open the umbrella, Toddy?
Well, I wasn't opening a mere umbrella. I was reopening an old memory of the New Forest.
Oh, to Mrs. Shea's boarding house by way of the New Forest. What a lovely long shortcut.
I've been carrying that old umbrella around for years. And finally, I found a very good use for it.
Oh,
Professor.
We were coming to see you.
I hope you weren't worried about your umbrella.
Not at all. I'm always leaving it someplace. But it always comes back. And sometimes with the most charming people attached to it.
Oh.
Now, were you going anywhere in particular? Are we keeping you?
No, I stopped going anywhere in particular a long time ago. Won't you both come and sit down a while?
Yes, thank you.
Well, Professor, I'm very glad to find you at home because I've something to discuss with you. The Board of Governors has endorsed a new project to be called the Annals of Ivy. For a long time, I've wanted to get this started, but I've had some difficulty in finding the right person to write the initial volume.
You have no idea what a relief it was to William when he discovered you were here. Why, you solved his problem.
I have.
If you could find the time, we'd be very grateful. Naturally, there's a modest, but I hope satisfactory subsidy.
You pay me for daydreaming?
They'll pay you in advance for thinking back.
There'd be some research, of course. In fact, there's a good deal of work involved.
And a good deal of life. You see, Ivy was my life.
That's it exactly, Professor. And we'd like your kind of personal approach. You might call it the autobiography of a college.
Why don't we discuss it over dinner? You haven't dined yet, have you, Professor?
No, I haven't.
Well, then join us. We'll find a gay spot in town, somewhere where we can celebrate.
How about Luigi's?
Very good idea. It used to be Mrs. Dodd's place.
Oh, Lady Dodds. They used to say dine and die a Dodge. You know, I was her very best customer. She gave me credit for that. Yes, thanks very much, Bill. I'd be delighted.
Oh, good. No, Professor, you've forgotten your umbrella again.
No, I haven't forgotten it, but there's not room for the three of us under it.
In a moment, we'll return to the halls of Ivy.
Oh, darling, do you realize it's nearly 12?
Yes, your Professor Royce is quite a boy when he gets started. The little lamb we saw on his bench yesterday became the lion at the dinner table tonight. Where does he get all his energy?
Oh, I suppose he feels the way Justice Holmes felt on his 91st birthday when he said the riders in a race don't stop short when they reach the goal. There's a little finishing canter before coming to a standstill. Time to hear the kind voices of friends and to say to oneself, the work is done.
And your day is done, darling, and well done. So let's call it a night.
We love the halls of ivy that surround